Hey everyone! Tonight I'm inviting you into a story you might not be ready for, a story of love, betrayal, heartbreak, and ultimately healing. Picture this: a quiet church in Maplewood, Ohio, sunlight breaking through stained glass, painting the pews with colors too soft for the grief that hangs in the air. The lily and roses filling the sanctuary are beautiful, but to me they just smell like endings. My husband, Jack Morrison, lay in a flag-draped casket after 50 years together, gone. Just like that. Before we go any further, if you find these real-life stories mean something to you, if you want more true relationship stories, cheating stories, life and love stories, or just honest daily storytelling that might help someone heal, please like this video, subscribe, and let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I love to see how far these emotional stories travel. Now, dim the lights, let yourself settle, and let me take you into one of those cheating and revenge stories you'll never forget. The church pew creaked under me in the front row, my hands trembling so badly I had to twist them together in my lap. My mother, Linda, squeezed my hand, her eyes puffy and red from crying. "Are you all right?" she whispered. What could I even say? The man who'd been my anchor through every storm was gone, and the world was moving on without him. People drifted in: Jack's friends from his army days, neighbors, old coworkers, even distant relatives I hadn't seen in years. Their voices swirled around me in a blur, a backdrop to my heartbreak. Then from the side, my son Andrew entered with his wife, Betrayal, close behind. My heart clamped in my chest. Andrew, so much like his father, tall, proud, with that quiet smile. But today, his face was unreadable. Betrayal's hand was on his back, guiding him in, her black dress more suited for a business meeting than a funeral. They hadn't visited Jack once during his final weeks. Too busy. Too many excuses. The pain of that cut deeper than I can describe. I should go say hello to Andrew, I whispered to Linda. She tightened her grip. No, you shouldn't. They hadn't spoken in months, not since the blow-up over Jack's care. Betrayal wanted hospice right away. Linda wanted every possible chance. The battle tore our family to pieces, and I was left watching my husband fade while my children fought over how quickly to let him go. The service started. The pastor's voice echoing the best parts of Jack's life, his loyalty, his love, the way he always put others first. I barely heard it. I saw only Jack, laughing over pancakes, holding our newborn son, sitting beside me on the porch after a long day. Then Linda stood and spoke her words raw, trembling, pouring out memories of her dad teaching her to ride a bike, sneaking her cookies, walking her down the aisle. The love was thick enough to touch, but Andrew didn't stand. He sat stiff beside Betrayal, who leaned in to whisper things to him, her eyes sharp, her lips barely moving. When it was my turn, my legs shook so badly I almost couldn't walk to the podium. I saw a sea of faces, some loving, most distant. Jack was. I tried, but my voice broke. He was everything. The tears wouldn't stop, and I let them fall. 50 years of love deserves every tear. As I choked out the last words, I caught Betrayal's voice this time, not even trying to hide it. "Look at those crocodile tears," she hissed. "She shouldn't even be crying. Everyone knows they were basically separated." The words landed like a slap. Gasps fluttered around the pews, but the worst was Andrew. He didn't defend me, didn't deny it. He just looked away as if I was the embarrassment in the room. Somehow I made it back to my seat, my legs numb. 50 years of loyalty erased by gossip and theater at my own husband's funeral. My son, my boy, just sat there. After that, I barely remembered the service. Just the hum of whispers, the stares that followed me, the way Betrayal swept out of the church like she'd won some invisible game, but she had no idea what was coming. Jack had insisted that we'll be read immediately, no waiting, no delays. He never left anything unfinished. Betrayal might have thought she'd gotten the last word, but Jack Morrison saw through her long before I did. You know how some people can feel a storm coming in their bones? Jack could sense a person's heart that way. The first time we met, Betrayal, her charm was so thick you could bottle it. "She's just nervous," Andrew had said, trying to impress. But when Jack squeezed my hand under the table, I knew he saw what I did. That hand squeezed our code for "I see what." You see, the night of their engagement party, I heard Betrayal laugh. "Your parents don't understand how things work now. It's sort of quaint." She thought it was funny. I didn't, and now in the office of Mr. Foster, Jack's lawyer for 30 years, I sat beside Linda, facing Andrew and Brielle across the table. Brielle looked at her watch, her legs crossed. Voice low. Let's hope this doesn't take long. We need to meet the realtor about the house. Market's hot right now. She had no clue what Jack had done. Mr. Foster came in, files in hand. Before we start, Jack left a letter to be read aloud. My hand shook as he passed it to me. My name Carolyn Morrison in Jack's careful script. My heart pounded as I opened it. My dearest family, I read, my voice cracking. If you're reading this, then I'm gone. Don't mourn too long. I've made my peace. To Carolyn, my love, thank you for 50 years. You stood by me when all I had were dreams. You are stronger than you think. Always have been. My vision blurred. Linda took the paper from my shaking hands and read on. Andrew, my son, you've drifted from the values your mother and I taught you. I hope you find your way back. Linda, my sweet girl, you've always had your mother's strength. Your mother needs it now. The choices in this may surprise you. They weren't made in anger, but with clear eyes and a full heart. My legacy isn't money, it's you. Brielle rolled her eyes, brushing invisible lint from her sleeve. Can we get to the will? She said. Mr. Foster adjusted his glasses and began. To my wife, Caroline, I leave our family home, free and clear, plus a monthly stipend for life. To my daughter, Linda, I leave $100,000 in my library, the books we shared. To my son, Andrew, I leave $10,000. The room froze. Brielle's jaw dropped. What? Andrew blinked. That can't be right. Mr. Foster raised a hand. However, there's a trust of $250,000 for your son, Caleb, for education and well-being. Carolyn and I are co-trustees. Brielle flushed. Excuse me, what does that mean? Mr. Foster was gentle but firm. It means only qualifying expenses and only with both signatures. She clamped her mouth shut, but the fury burned behind her eyes. And the remainder of Jack's estate? Given to the Morrison Family Foundation, a charity Jack founded for pediatric research and caregiver support. Silence. Then Brielle exploded. This is theft. You can't just skip your own son. But Mr. Foster had records over $300,000 in loans, tuition, business investments for Andrew. All documented, none repaid. Linda leaned in, whispering he was always 3 steps ahead. I nodded. Jack had never forgotten what it meant to lose someone young. He wanted his legacy to mean something more than money. Brielle's protest faded. Andrew stared at the table, lost. When it was over, Mr. Foster handed me a small envelope. 1. Last thing, Jack, left this for you. Inside was a key and a note for when you're ready. All my love, Jay. That key would change everything. But I wasn't ready to open the door just yet. The morning after Henry's funeral, the house felt impossibly quiet. No more casseroles arriving at the door. No more phone calls from old neighbors who'd heard the news and didn't know what to say but tried anyway. The world outside ticked. On cars moved down Bluebell Road, birds chirped in the maple trees, but inside, it was like time pressed pause. I moved through the rooms on autopilot, making the bed, straightening magazines, watering the hydrangeas by the window. All the things Henry used to do without thinking, as if keeping the house in order would keep us in order too. Rachel arrived just after 9, letting herself in with a gentle knock that was more of a warning than a request. She came bearing blueberry muffins and a box of tissues, which she set on the kitchen table without comment. Her eyes met mine, and for a moment, neither of us spoke. It was a silence only mothers and daughters can share, full of everything unsaid, everything understood. He left a mess behind, didn't he? She finally said, her voice raw but not angry. Not just the paperwork, all of it. I nodded, because it was true. Grief doesn't leave neat lines or color inside the boxes. It spills everywhere, staining the corners you thought you protected. I poured us both coffee and tried to steady my hands. Did you sleep? She asked. Barely, I said. Kept thinking I heard him get up for water. Every creak in the house feels like him. Rachel smiled. Watery? He used to rattle the silverware drawer on purpose. Said he liked the sound. She let out a shaky breath. It's strange, isn't it? The little things you remember and the big things you forget. I nodded again. There was nothing else to say. For a while, we sat in the kitchen, the old clock ticking steadily, our coffees cooling, the scent of muffins mingling with the faint memory of Henry's aftershave. The peace didn't last long. A car door slammed outside. I heard footsteps. Hurried and sharp, Rachel's back went rigid. "That's Daniel," she said. He didn't knock. Just walked in, hair a mess, eyes bloodshot, tension radiating from every inch of him. He paused in the doorway like he wasn't sure if he should step inside. "Mom?" he said, voice cracking. "Rachel." Rachel barely looked at him. I gestured. To the coffee pot, the only olive branch I had left. He poured himself a cup, staring into it like he might find answers at the bottom. The silence grew heavy. "I'm sorry," he said quietly finally. "For everything yesterday. For not standing up," his voice faltered. "I should have." Rachel cut him off, not unkindly. "You should have, but you didn't. The old wounds flared right there in my kitchen. Dad would have wanted us to pull together, not tear each other apart." Daniel flinched, but he didn't argue. "I know." He turned to me. "Is there anything you need, Mom? Anything I can do?" There was so much he could have done, years of choices to unravel, but what could I say? "I just need you both here," I managed. "That's all." He nodded, swallowing hard. "Vanessa wants to meet with Mr. Whitman today. About the trust. She's not happy." Rachel rolled her eyes. "She's never happy unless she's winning." Daniel bristled, but let it go. "She just wants what's fair." "What's fair?" Rachel's voice rose, brittle. "Is it fair Dad spent his last weeks wondering if you'd show up? Is it fair you let her whisper poison in your ear until you forgot what this family even means?" I reached out, my hand trembling as I pressed it to hers. "Enough, Rachel, please." She pulled away, but the anger simmered quietly between us. Daniel put down his mug, jaw set. "I'm sorry, Mom, I really am. For all of it." And for the first time since the funeral, I let myself see him not as the boy I raised, but as a man tired, regretful, haunted by mistakes he couldn't fix. I wanted to reach for him to make it all okay, but that's not how grief works. You can't mother someone through the fire. You just stand by and pray they find their way out. The day slipped by in slow, aching increments. Vanessa called twice, once to confirm the meeting with Mr. Whitman, once to remind Daniel to bring all the paperwork. Her voice on speaker was clipped, cold, all business. When she hung up, Daniel sat at the kitchen table, head in his hands, and just breathed. I looked at him and saw flashes of the boy who used to build Lego castles under that same table. Who scraped his knees climbing the oak tree in the yard, who cried when his goldfish died. Where had he gone? When did we lose him to someone else's ambitions? Late afternoon brought a soft knock at the door. Rachel answered it. Mr. Whitman stepped in, briefcase in hand, a kind face creased with worry. "Evelyn, Daniel, Rachel?" He greeted us each gently, like a man who'd seen too many families fracture under the weight of loss. He set the briefcase on the table, snapped it open, and pulled out a slim folder. "There are matters to settle, but I'd rather not do this. If everyone isn't present," Daniel's shoulders sagged, "Vanessa will be here any minute." And sure enough, moments later, she swept in heels sharp on the hardwood, sunglasses still on, an air of impatience rolling off her like perfume. She sat down beside Daniel without a word to me, crossing her legs and pulling out her phone. "Mr. Whitman," began, his tone formal. "Today we'll be discussing the administration of the trust Henry established for Noah." He glanced at Daniel. "I have the required documentation here, including Henry's instructions." Vanessa interrupted before he could continue. "We want control. Daniel is Noah's father. There's no reason to keep us out of decisions." Mr. Whitman's mouth twitched. Henry was quite clear. Co-trusteeship between Evelyn and myself was non-negotiable. Funds are for Noah's education and well-being, nothing else. Vanessa scoffed, flipping her hair. "So you're going to police every penny? That's not how families work." I met her gaze, steady. "No, it's how Henry worked. Because he loved Noah more than anyone in this room." The meeting grew tense. Vanessa argued, Daniel wilted. Rachel sat quietly fuming, and Mr. Whitman kept to the facts, untangling emotion from legality. By the end of the hour, nothing had changed. The trust stood, the foundation was funded, and Vanessa left in a huff, muttering about lawyers and old women clinging to control. When the door finally closed, Daniel slumped, exhausted. "I don't know how to fix any of this," he said quietly. "You don't?" I said gently. You just do the next right thing. That's all any of us can do. That night when the house was empty again and the sun had set behind the maples, I sat alone in the living room, Henry's favorite chair creaking beneath me. I picked up his journal, the one I'd found tucked away in the closet, and traced my fingers over his handwriting. Some pages were just list tools for the shed, songs he wanted to learn on the guitar, reminders to call the grandkids. But near the end, I found a line that stopped me cold. We can't protect them from every storm, but we can leave them a light in the window just in case they come home. Tears slipped down my cheeks. I closed the journal and sat in the hush, feeling, for the first time, that maybe the worst was over, not because grief had ended, but because love, steady and quiet, was still here, lighting the way, and somewhere maybe Henry was too. Sleep came and went in fits that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Henry in that same old chair, tapping his fingers to an unheard tune, humming beneath his breath. I'd reach for him, but he'd vanish as soon as my mind drifted to the pain, the loneliness blooming in every corner of the house. Morning light slanted through the curtains. I could hear the distant thrum of a lawnmower, the squeak of a school bus's brakes, life moving on whether I was ready or not. I let myself linger in bed, clutching Henry's old flannel shirt, breathing in the fading scent of him. I wondered if Rachel was awake, if Daniel had slept at all. If Vanessa was already plotting our next move. By noon, the phone rang. It was Mr. Whitman, his voice gentle. Evelyn, I wanted to check in. How are you holding up after yesterday? I'm still here, I said. Thank you. He hesitated, as if measuring his words. I don't want to alarm you, but Vanessa's called my office twice already this morning. She's pushing hard to amend the terms. I've reassured her there's nothing she can do, not without your consent. I pressed my hand to my forehead, feeling the pressure build. She doesn't want what's best for Noah. She wants control. He sighed. I know, but the trust stands firm. Henry made sure of that. After I hung up, I made a second cup of coffee and stood by the window, watching the world outside. Across the street, little Noah was chasing a soccer ball in the yard, his laughter carrying in the breeze. For a moment, I smiled. He had Henry's eyes, mischief and kindness all mixed together. I wondered what he understood about all this, if he knew how fiercely his grandfather had loved him. An hour later, Rachel appeared in the doorway, hair still damp from the shower. She looked tired but softer than the day before. Want some company? She asked, always. We sat on the porch, mugs in hand, watching the leaves dance in the wind. Rachel traced the rim of her cup. You know, I hated that Dad kept everything so close to his chest. I felt shut out. But now? I get it. He wanted to protect us. I nodded. He did the best he could with what he had. Rachel's eyes filled with tears she refused to let fall. I keep thinking about Daniel, about how lost he looks. Do you think he'll ever come back to us? I thought about all the ways I'd tried to hold this family together, all the tiny threads that had frayed over the years. People come back when they're ready, not when we want them to, I said. But I hope so. For Noah's sake, Rachel squeezed my hand. If anyone can fix this, it's you, Mom. Before I could answer, Daniel's car pulled into the driveway. He sat there a moment, hands gripping the wheel, staring out at nothing. I saw the shadow of the boy he once was, the boy who used to run home after school, backpack bouncing, eager to tell me about his day. I wondered how that boy had become this man, worn thin by regret. He finally climbed out, and Rachel tensed beside me. I put a hand on her knee, a silent reminder, be gentle. He needs it. Daniel joined us on the porch, his eyes red-rimmed, his jaw set. Vanessa's furious, he said flatly. She says you're manipulating everything, Mom, that Dad was senile at the end and didn't know what he was doing. My stomach twisted. You know, that isn't true. I know, he said, voice cracking. But she won't let it go. She wants to fight. Lawyers, court, the whole mess. Rachel bristled, but I shook my head. No one's taking anything. From Noah, your father saw to that. Daniel sank onto the steps, head in his hands. I don't want to fight. I just want peace. I want my son to grow up in a family that isn't always at war. Rachel's anger softened. Then stand up to her, Daniel. For once, do it for Noah. He looked at her, and in that moment, something shifted between them, just a flicker. But it was enough. Maybe forgiveness starts as small as that dot we sat together in silence, the three of us, the wind rustling through the trees. I thought about Henry's journal, about the line I'd read the night before. We can't protect them from every storm, but we can leave a light in the window, just in case they come home. Later, when Daniel and Rachel had gone, I went inside and found an old photo album tucked away behind the coats. Pages stuck together, corners bent, but each photo a tiny time capsule. There was Daniel in his Little League uniform, grinning with a missing front tooth. Rachel at her high school graduation, eyes bright and proud. Henry holding Noah for the first time, his whole face softened by joy. I lingered over that last one. The way Henry looked at Noah like the sun rose and set in that child. I closed the album and pressed it to my chest, letting myself grieve not just the man I lost, but the years, the dreams, the pieces of our family that might never fit back. Together, just as dusk fell, the phone rang again. This time it was Vanessa. I almost didn't answer, but something told me to pick up. Her voice was sharp, brittle. "You're not going to win, Evelyn. You think you can freeze me out, but you can't keep Noah's inheritance from us forever. I'll take you to court if I have to." I was tired, but my voice stayed calm. "This isn't about winning, Vanessa. It's about Noah, and your anger won't change what Henry wanted." She laughed, bitter and low. "You're not even his real family. Not anymore, you'll see." She hung up before I could reply. I stared at the receiver for a long moment, heart pounding. For the first time, I wondered just how far she'd go and what it would cost to protect what little I had left. The house felt colder than before, the light fading fast. I went to the window and switched on the porch lamp, letting its glow spill out onto the lawn. I wouldn't let the darkness win. Not tonight, but as I watched the empty street, a chill crept up my spine, a warning I couldn't shake. Something was coming, and this time I wasn't sure love alone would be enough to keep us safe. The next morning, I woke before sunrise, mind thick with worry. I found myself wandering the house like a restless ghost. I wiped down countertops that were already clean, straightened photos on the wall, checked the locks on the doors twice. Some part of me believed that if I kept moving, if I stayed busy, I could hold the unraveling at bay just a little longer. Daniel called just after 7. His voice was shaky but determined. "Mom, can I come by? I need to talk." I told him to come, hung up, and set about making coffee, the old ritual soothing my nerves. He arrived with dark circles under his eyes, hair mussed, clothes wrinkled. He looked like a man at the end of his rope, not the boy who once chased fireflies in the backyard. He didn't even sit, just paced the living room, running a trembling hand through his hair. "She's threatening to take Noah and leave the state," he blurted, voice thin with panic. "She says if I don't support her challenge to the will, I'll never see my son again." The words sliced through me. "She can't do that, Daniel. You know she can't." He stopped pacing, eyes wild. "She's already contacted a lawyer. She's posting on social media painting me as a deadbeat and unstable parent. She's got people believing it, Mom. Even some of my friends are reaching out, asking if it's true." I wanted to gather him up, hold him like I did when he was little, but I knew he wouldn't let me. He was too old for that kind of comfort, too raw. So instead, I made him sit at the kitchen table, poured him coffee, and listened as he unraveled everything. Vanessa's threats, the pressure, the guilt, the terror of losing his son. Rachel arrived a few minutes later, still in pajamas, hair bundled on top of her head. She took one look at Daniel and slid into the chair beside him, silent support. "We need to fight her," Daniel said finally. "Not just for the money or the house, but for Noah. He's not safe with her alone. Not if she's willing to use him as a weapon." Rachel nodded, eyes fierce. "I'll testify if you need me to. I'll tell the judge everything I saw, the manipulation, the lies. She can't gaslight the whole world." I watched them, brother and sister, united by something larger than pain, love for a child and a longing to right old wrongs. Henry would have been proud. By midday, Mr. Whitman called, calm as ever. I filed for a temporary restraining order, he said. "It won't keep Vanessa away forever, but it will force the court to look at the evidence. And we have plenty of that, thanks to Henry's file." It was the first time I'd felt real hope since the funeral, but hope is fragile. That afternoon, a car pulled up in front of the house. Vanessa, she didn't bother with the doorbell, just marched up the walkway, heels clicking on the stone. posture stiff with righteous anger. I met her at the door, keeping the screen closed between us. Her lipstick was perfect, her expression anything but, "I just want to see my son," she snapped, eyes darting past me. "He's not here, Vanessa. And you know you're not supposed to come by unannounced," she scoffed. "Oh, don't play. The martyr, you're poisoning Daniel against me. You think you're so righteous, hiding behind Henry's memory." I held my ground, heart pounding. "I'm not hiding. I'm protecting my family the way Henry asked me to." She leaned in, her face inches from mine. "You're not his family anymore. You're just an old woman with a house that isn't even really yours." Something in me snapped, but my voice stayed calm. "It's mine as long as I breathe in it. And as long as I have breath, I'll use it to protect Noah." For a second, I thought she might cry or scream or strike me. But she just straightened, pulled her coat tighter, and sneered. "You're going to regret this, all of you." She turned and stalked back to her car. I stood there, breath shaking until she was gone. That night, Daniel slept at the house. He took the guest room, but I could hear him pacing the hallway, opening and closing drawers, searching for something he couldn't name. I stayed up late, reading Henry's journal by lamplight. One entry caught my eye, a note written in shaky hand just a week before he died. "We only get so many chances to stand up for what matters. Don't waste them on silence. Speak even if your voice trembles." The next day dawned gray and wet, rain streaking the windows, thunder rumbling in the distance. I dressed carefully, choosing a blouse Henry had always liked and a pair of sturdy shoes. We had a hearing to attend. The first of many, perhaps, but I would not be intimidated. Rachel drove. Daniel sat beside her, staring straight ahead, jaw clenched. I rode in the back, clutching Henry's letter, a talisman against fear. The courthouse was cold and impersonal, all polished marble and echoing footsteps. Vanessa was already there, her new lawyer at her side, a slick man in an expensive suit who smiled like he'd already won. The hearing was short but brutal. Vanessa's lawyer painted Daniel as unstable, me as manipulative, Henry as confused. In his last days. But Mr. Whitman, steady and sharp, laid out the evidence, the files, the messages, the video Henry had recorded for just this occasion. And then something unexpected happened. Noah, quiet and small in a too-big chair, spoke to the judge. "I want to stay with Dad," he said, voice trembling but clear. "Grandma makes me pancakes. Aunt Rachel lets me help with the garden. I just want us to be together." For a moment, everyone was silent. Even Vanessa. The judge granted the restraining order. Temporary but real. Daniel got custody for now. Vanessa was limited to supervised visits, pending a full evaluation. We left the courthouse in a daze. Outside, the rain had stopped. Sunlight broke through, dappling the pavement. Back at the house, Rachel hugged me tight. "We did it, Mom, at least for now." Daniel stood a little taller, shoulders straighter. He looked at me, eyes bright. "Thank you," he said, voice rough with gratitude. "For everything." I wanted to say, "This is what families do," but the words caught in my throat. Instead, I just squeezed his hand, letting the silence speak for us. That night, as the house finally quieted, I sat by the window and watched the last of the storm clouds drift away. Henry's words echoed in my mind. "Speak, even if your voice trembles." We'd done that. And for the first time since he died, I felt something like peace settle in my chest. But as I drifted toward sleep, I couldn't shake the feeling that Vanessa wasn't finished. Not yet. The story wasn't over. The real battle, I knew, was still to come. Morning arrived with a thin golden light spilling across the kitchen table, illuminating the coffee mugs from the night before. Daniel was already up, his face calmer, his eyes focused in a way I hadn't seen in weeks. Rachel moved quietly, making eggs and toast, humming softly. Even Noah, who usually bounded in with all the energy of a tornado, padded downstairs with a certain gravity, like he understood, somehow, that we were all living in the fragile calm after a long, hard rain. I thought for a moment that maybe the worst had passed. The phone rang at 9. Rachel picked up, eyes narrowing as she listened. She handed the phone to me, mouth set in a hard line. "It's her," she mouthed. I took the call, heart drumming. Vanessa's voice was clipped, icy, every word sharp enough to draw blood. "I hope you enjoyed your little victory yesterday." She spat. "Because I have more." "You think you can use Henry's memory against me? You think you can turn my son against me? My breath caught, but I wouldn't let her hear my fear. No one's turning Noah against anyone. This is about what's right. Her laugh was brittle, almost desperate. What's right? What's right is that I was Henry's wife. That house, that money, it should be mine. You're nothing but a shadow clinging to his ghost, trying to rewrite the ending. She paused, and when she spoke again, her voice was lower, almost a hiss. You don't know everything, Margaret. You never did. Maybe you should be careful about what you dig. Up. The line went dead. I stood there, the dial tone echoing in my ear, a pit yawning open in my stomach. I turned to Rachel, but she was already at my side. What did she say? She whispered. I shook my head. She's not finished. By noon, the first letter arrived delivered by hand, a heavy envelope stamped with the name of a private investigator. Inside were copies of old medical records, property documents, and buried among them a yellowed photograph of Henry, arms around a woman I didn't recognize. Vanessa's neat script was scrawled across the back. How well did you really know your husband? The implication was obvious. She was coming for our memories now, not just the house. I held the photo, hands shaking, the old pain of loss mixing with fresh uncertainty. Rachel took it from me, studied it, and shook her head. This is just more of her poison, Mom. She's desperate. Daniel arrived home that afternoon, the air around him charged with anxious energy. She's telling people Henry had another family, that he lied to us all. She's trying to have the will thrown out, saying he wasn't of sound. Mine because of secrets he never told us. The cruelty of it staggered me. To take what little piece we built and twist it into something ugly. But instead of shrinking, I felt something in me harden. If Vanessa wanted a war, she was going to get one. We gathered in the living room, me, Rachel, Daniel, even little Noah playing quietly nearby. For the first time, we spoke openly about everything, Henry's last months, his fears, his love, his need to protect us from the chaos he must have sensed would come. I pulled out that old journal again, flipping to the last entry. The words steadied me, gave me courage. Daniel looked at me, then at Rachel. We fight with the truth. That's all we have. That's all we need. That evening, Mr. Whitman called. Vanessa has filed a motion to contest the will. She claims new evidence of fraud and infidelity. I'll handle it. But she's playing. F or keeps. I realized then that what was at stake wasn't just the house or the money, it was our right to remember Henry for who he truly was, and to keep the family he built intact. Night fell heavy and thick. Rain returned, drumming on the windows. I sat in the dark with Henry's letter pressed to my chest, remembering the warmth of his hand in mine, the quiet strength in his smile. The next morning, the doorbell rang. I opened it to find Vanessa. Standing there, hair wild, eyes red. She thrust a folder at me, hand shaking. This isn't over, she whispered, voice breaking. But I don't know what to do anymore. She turned and walked away, shoulders slumped, all her venom spent. Inside the folder, instead of threats, I found something else. Photos of Noah, cards he'd made for her, old family snapshots, memories. Not weapons. A note slipped out, written in her tight, slanted hand. I wanted to win so badly. I forgot what really matters. Please, don't turn Noah against me. I'm lost. I sat down hard, tears blurring the world. For the first time, I saw Vanessa not as the villain, but as another woman left behind by grief and anger, clawing at anything that might make her whole again. When I showed the letter to Daniel and Rachel, they were silent for a long time. Finally, Daniel said, "We'll protect Noah, but maybe it's time to let Vanessa be part of his life again on our terms, safely." I nodded. The storm at last was ending. That evening, with rain washing the windows clean, we made dinner together. Rachel chopped vegetables, Daniel set the table, Noah danced circles around us. And for the first time in ages, I laughed a real, deep laugh that shook something loose inside me. I looked up at Henry's photograph, smiling down from the mantel, and whispered, "We're still here. We're still together." But I knew this peace wasn't something you win and keep forever. It was something you choose, again and again, every day. And in the quiet, I promised myself I would never waste. Another chance to stand up for what matters, even if my voice trembled. The storm had broken, but nothing about the aftermath felt easy. For days, the air in the house felt lighter, yet somehow thinner too, as if any strong wind might scatter us again. Noah moved back and forth between houses with quiet compliance. Never asking questions, but sometimes I'd catch him peering through the window at dusk, as if hoping to see someone he couldn't name. Vanessa kept her distance. There were no more late-night calls, no fresh threats, but she sent Noah a card. Each week simple, childish drawings with crypt hearts and clumsy words. I read each one before handing it over, making sure no sharp edges were hidden inside. There never were doubt Daniel spent his evenings at the dining table, sorting paperwork for the foundation Henry had started. He'd grown thinner but also steadier, as if the last months had burned away everything that didn't matter. Rachel came by often, always with something to offer: banana bread, legal advice, a steadying arm around my shoulder. One Friday morning as I folded laundry by the window, Daniel appeared in the doorway, hair damp from the shower, a rare smile twitching on his lips. "I have a meeting with the foundation board today," he said. "They want me to take a bigger role. They said Dad's notes are intimidatingly thorough." I smiled. "That sounds like him. Are you ready?" He nodded, but something flickered behind his eyes. "I hope so. I want to be... I keep waiting for the next disaster." I set the laundry basket down and crossed to him, taking his hand in both of mine. That's what grief does. It makes you flinch at shadows even after the thunder stops. "But you're building something good, Daniel. Dad would be proud." That evening, the three of us sat in the living room, reviewing photos for the foundation's website. Rachel propped her feet on the coffee table, scrolling through old family albums. She paused on a photo from years ago, Henry, Daniel, and Rachel all in matching flannel. Half smiling in the weak Virginia sun, Rachel studied the image. "You know, I was always jealous of you and Dad. I thought he liked you more because you were so much like him." Daniel looked surprised. "I always thought he favored you. You were the golden child, the easy one." I laughed softly. "You were both wrong. He just saw you both, your strengths, your hurts. That's what made him special." A silence fell, warm and safe. Then Rachel turned to me. "Have you thought about seeing someone? For yourself, I mean. You've carried so much, Mom, you don't have to do it alone." I hesitated. Maybe I'm finally ready to talk." The weeks slipped by. Spring melted into summer, and the garden Henry planted years ago exploded in color. Sunflowers leaned against the fence, roses crept up the trellis, and Noah picked buttercups for the kitchen table. Life didn't heal in big moments. It healed in small, ordinary days: breakfast on the porch, laughter over a board game, a letter from Vanessa simply saying, "Thank you for letting me see him." One humid afternoon, as thunder rumbled in the hills, Daniel received a call from Vanessa's lawyer. She wanted to meet, this time without any attorneys. The old Margaret would have said no, would have locked the doors and shut the world out. But now, steadied by Henry's memory and Rachel's faith, I agreed. We met at a park just before dusk. Vanessa looked exhausted, dressed simply, her eyes ringed with fatigue. She didn't speak at first. She just sat across from me on a battered bench, picking at her nails. Finally, she said, "I was wrong. About a lot of things. I wanted to win so badly, I lost sight of what mattered. I'm sorry." The words, simple and unadorned, landed heavily between us. I nodded. "It's not about winning or losing anymore, Vanessa. It's about Noah, about making sure he has the chance to grow up loved, not torn between us." She wiped her eyes. "He deserves that. He deserves better than what I gave him, or Daniel, or you." I reached out, hesitated, then gently rested my hand over hers. "Let's do better together." It wasn't a reconciliation, it wasn't forgiveness, not yet. But it was something to understanding, a seed planted in the hard ground between us. Back home, Daniel waited for me on the porch. He looked up, hope and fear warring in his face. "She wants to try," I said quietly. "She wants to be a better mother." He nodded, silent tears tracing his cheeks. "I want that too. For Noah, for all of us." That night, after everyone had gone to bed, I sat alone in the kitchen with Henry's journal open beside a mug of cold tea. I reread his words over and over. Sometimes healing comes slow, like roots spreading underground. You don't see the growth until one day there are flowers where you expected only weeds. I smiled, closed the book, and let the quiet settle around me. We weren't healed. Not yet, but we were healing, and that I finally understood was enough. Summer deepened and our days settled into something almost resembling normal. Not the old normal, there was no going back to that, but a new kind, stitched together from forgiveness, small steps, and the unspoken permission to start again. Noah spent every other weekend with Vanessa now. The first exchange was hard. Daniel's hand shook as he buckled Noah into Vanessa's car, and I could barely watch them drive away. But when Noah came home, his cheeks were flushed from laughter. He showed off a clay dinosaur and a lopsided cake he and Vanessa had baked together. For the first time, Daniel seemed less afraid, more hopeful. Maybe she really means it, he said, eyes searching mine for confirmation. I squeezed his shoulder. Let's trust, but keep watching. That's all anyone can do. Work at the foundation flourished. Daniel took charge of a new project offering direct help to families facing sudden medical crises. Dad would have loved this, Rachel said during one planning meeting, her voice steady and proud. I watched Daniel no longer weighed down by shame but buoyed by purpose and saw for the first time in years a man becoming whole. Rachel bloomed too. She started dating Matt, the art teacher with mismatched socks, and began planning a series of painting nights at the local community center. Art is therapy, she told me one afternoon, swirling paint across a canvas. Just messy enough. To feel real, I let myself move slowly. The house was still too quiet some nights, but I stopped avoiding Henry's old chair. I even took up gardening, kneeling in the earth Henry once tended, letting dirt pack under my nails. Sometimes I talked to him aloud. Not big confessions, just the small things, like how the tomatoes were late this year, or how Noah had lost his front tooth, or how Daniel had started humming again while he worked. One humid morning, a letter. Arrived, no return address, just my name scrawled in sharp, hurried penmanship. Inside was a single sheet written in Vanessa's hand. Evelyn, I know I have no right to ask you for anything, but I want you to know I am truly sorry. I'm learning. Finally, how much I hurt you, Daniel and Noah. I hope you'll let me try to be better for Noah and maybe for myself. Vanessa, I set the letter down, my chest tight. It was honest, or as honest as Vanessa could manage. For the first time, I didn't feel anger reading her words. Only a deep, bone-tired hope that people really could change. That night, the three of us, me, Daniel, and Noah, sat on the back porch watching fireflies flicker across the yard. Noah curled up between us, sticky from popsicles and sleepy from chasing lightning bugs. Will Mommy always come back? He asked, voice thin. Daniel brushed a hand over Noah's hair. She's trying, buddy. We're all trying. Do you? Miss Grandpa? Noah asked, his eyes on the stars. Daniel's voice broke a little. Every day. But I think he'd be happy if he saw us now. Noah nodded, then whispered, I hope he's one of the stars. Rachel joined us, handing out mugs of chamomile tea. The porch creaked under our combined weight. We sipped in silence, fireflies blinking like tiny lanterns. In that hush, I felt Henry's presence, not as a ghost or a shadow, but as a memory that softened everything, making even our pain seem somehow necessary earned. Then just when the world felt almost settled, the phone rang. It was Mr. Whitman. His voice was tight. Evelyn, I need you and Daniel to come to my office tomorrow. There's something urgent, a development regarding the foundation. My heart leapt, fear lacing through me. Is something wrong? He hesitated. I'd rather not say over the phone, but please bring Rachel too. I think you'll want her there. I hung up, and for the first time in weeks, the old dread returned, clawing at my ribs. What now? Daniel asked, concern flickering in his eyes. I don't know, I said, but whatever it is, we'll face it together. That night, I didn't sleep much. I wandered the house, touching old photographs, straightening a crooked painting, smoothing Henry's quilt on the bed. The house, once so empty, now felt full again. I realized with a pang that I wasn't afraid anymore, not really. Whatever waited for us tomorrow, we'd meet it as a family. In the morning, sunlight spilled through the windows, warm and gold. Daniel made breakfast pancakes, just like his father used to, and Rachel set the table, humming softly. We dressed in our best, not because we wanted to impress anyone, but because we understood at last the importance of showing up. No matter how heavy our hearts. At Mr. Whitman's office, the mood was somber but electric. Papers were stacked neatly on his desk. A single manila envelope sat on top, Henry's familiar handwriting across the front. As you know, Mr. Whitman began, Henry was always thorough. But he left something else behind, something we missed in the first review. An addendum to the foundation with a new stipulation. It affects all of you. He slid the envelope across the desk. Rachel reached for my hand under the table. Daniel's jaw tensed. Together, we leaned in, ready to read the words Henry had left for us. One final lesson, one last act of love waiting to unfold. Mr. Whitman slid the envelope across the desk, its surface worn, Henry's handwriting faded but unmistakable. I could hardly breathe as Daniel opened it with trembling hands. Inside was a single sheet, heavy with the weight of one last instruction, and a stack of old photographs, some yellowed, some more recent, all filled with the faces of our family. Even in its messiest moments, Mr. Whitman cleared his throat and read aloud, "To my family, if you are reading this, it means I trusted you to keep going, even when I could not walk beside you. The foundation, the money, the house, none of it means anything without forgiveness. If you want to honor me, do it not with bitterness, but with generosity. This last stipulation is simple. As long as you act in good faith, with love at the center, the foundation is yours to lead. If you cannot forgive, if you cannot come together, even imperfectly, then let the money go to the next family who needs it more. Don't let my memory become another battleground. Make it a place of peace." Henry, the words were like sunlight after a storm, cutting through fear, asking only for what mattered most. Daniel's voice shook as he passed the letter to Rachel. He never wanted us to fight, not over anything, not even him. Rachel wiped her eyes. He wanted us to move forward, together. For a long moment, none of us spoke. Then, quietly, Daniel placed his hand on top of mine and Rachel's. Let's not waste what he left us. Not the money, not the chance to start over, not the hope. The three of us nodded. There were no fireworks, no dramatic reconciliations. Just the soft, real promise of trying every day. Afterward, we walked out into the Lexington sun, the air thick with honeysuckle. It felt like Henry was there in every breeze, every bird song, every ripple of sunlight across the brick sidewalk. For the first time, I felt certain we were going to be all right. Maybe even more than all right. In the months that followed, life moved gently forward. The foundation's first scholarship was awarded to a young single mother putting herself through nursing school. Daniel threw himself into the work, not to erase guilt, but to give something good back to the world. Rachel organized art nights and fundraisers, her laughter becoming a steady comfort in our home. I found myself humming in the kitchen again, filling the house with the small rituals of love. Vanessa kept her distance, for the most part. Noah visited her on weekends, and each time he returned, he was a little taller, a little more confident. "Mommy's learning to be nice," he told me one evening as he helped me bake cookies. I smiled, thinking maybe that was enough, maybe healing for her would come, too, in its own time. One afternoon, Daniel asked me if we could visit Henry's grave together. The three of us, Daniel, Rachel, and I, walked up the sunlit hill with Noah skipping ahead, bouquet in hand. We stood in silence, reading the words on his stone again. A steady hand, a generous heart. Daniel placed the flowers gently and whispered, "We're doing it, Dad. We're keeping your promise." I placed my hand on Daniel's back, studying us both. That night, we had a family dinner. Rachel's famous lemon chicken, fresh bread, and a strawberry cake Noah had decorated with rainbow sprinkles. The table was crowded, loud, and perfect. But there was so much laughter, it felt like music. At one point, Noah stood on his chair and announced, "I think Grandpa Henry is a star now, and he's watching us be happy." We all smiled. I looked around the table, my family, battered but not broken, and realized that everything Henry had worked for, all the pain and planning, had led us right here, to a table full of life, love, and second chances. Later, as dusk fell and fireflies blinked across the backyard, I sat alone on the porch with Henry's old journal in my lap. The last page was blank, except for a note scrawled at the bottom. "Love is what survives us. Let it be enough." I closed the book and let the quiet wash over me, not empty this time, but gentle, whole. We had walked through betrayal, loss, anger, and forgiveness. We had learned that real family is not about who stays when things are easy, but who returns when it matters most. So, if you've made it this far with me tonight, thank you for listening to this story of cheating and revenge, of heartbreak and hope, of second chances, and the ways we all find our way home again. If you're holding on to pain or waiting for someone you love to come back, I hope you remember this. Healing isn't about forgetting. It's about carrying the best of what we lost forward. Together, and as the night settles in, wherever you are, remember sometimes the stories that break us open are the same ones that teach us how to begin again. If this touched your heart, let me know in the comments, share your own story, or just say where you're listening from. I hope you found some comfort here. Until next time, take care of yourself and each other. Good night.